610. But you know there's a 600 that we can pay for the large one and not it as a part of
No, it's working on that.
Just carry it. I don't like the way I'm seeing that. See, nobody's doing it. Not believable. The next time I'm hearing about it, I'm seeing it in my
Thank Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone to this webinar today tagged Sports Law and Business in Nigeria, the potential opportunities embedded therein. My name is Abisola Aminat Kehinde. I'm an associate of Imperial Law Office, and I'll be moderating this session today. I am very pleased and privileged to moderate this session today. So today we'll be having brilliant speakers that will be giving us insight into the sports law ecosystem, legal framework. They'll be giving us knowledge and sharing their knowledge on the principles that are guiding the sports ecosystem in Nigeria. And of course, we'll also be having, we'll also be learning about the business and the investment opportunities in the sports ecosystem in Nigeria. I'm sure we have sports lovers. I'm sure we have sports lovers on this call this morning.
Is it by force?
I'm sure we have sports lovers on this call this morning. For me, I am a Man U fan, and I can't wait for the match today, the match between Arsenal and Man City. I don't know who's supporting Arsenal, but I'm supporting Man City. All right, so that is just, I would be introducing our first speaker this morning, the first panelist this morning. Our first panelist is a senior associate of the Imperial Law Office. Is goal-driven, is a passionate legal practitioner. Is an experienced professional in corporate commercial law, sports law, general litigation, capital markets, tax, labor, and employment practice. Our first speaker this morning is an alumnus of the University of Lagos, where he obtained his Masters of Law and Bachelors of Law in 2011. He's also a member of the Nigerian Bar Association. He's skilled in regulatory compliance, corporate finance, labor and employment related issues. Just think of it. So join me, welcome this morning, Mr. Mobolanle Otegbeye. He would be taking us on the legal framework and the principles guiding the sports ecosystem in Nigeria. If you have any questions during this first session, kindly drop your questions in the chat box and we will be glad to take them. Thank you very much. So over to you, Mr. Mobolanle Otegbeye.
Thank you, Bisola Kehinde. I'm really excited and delighted to be a part of this webinar, to be discussing one or two things in respect of sports law ecosystem in Nigeria. So there are so many things to talk about, but then we will be restraining ourselves to the framework in terms of legal framework of sports law in Nigeria. And I hope we will have a wonderful time discussing sports law this morning. Yes, sports is a global phenomenon. It's not only something that is generally enjoyed, but something that is, a lot of people are very passionate about sports. You see people who say they are diehard fans of a certain club or they are a fan of a certain game. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Wherever you are in the world, you will always find hardcore lovers of one sport or another. So I want us to discuss this. Can I share my screen? Okay, I think so. So I would like us to discuss, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I would like to discuss from the topic for today is sports law and business in Nigeria, the potential opportunities embedded there. So that is a topic we want to discuss today, but as we have already been told, there are two discussants, and I will be taking the legal framework aspects of sports law in Nigeria. So I will move on without wasting much of our time to the introductory section. So this part is meant to introduce us to the legal framework of sports law in Nigeria. So like I said earlier on, the sports ecosystem is a globally recognized system. It's an industry that is very well and can comfortably be described as a billion-dollar industry. We all know the fact that sports generally all over the globe, in certain areas generate a lot of money. We cannot begin to start talking about how much goes into international competitions when it comes to football, talking about World Cup, or maybe respective league matches in their different countries, or the League of Champions, one that is called UEFA Champions League. And also the basketball section, the golf section, the Olympics, athletic competition, and so on and so forth. We can't begin to describe how much it goes down the drain or how much is being in circulation when we talk of sports and sporting events worldwide or globally. But however, you find out that very little or nothing is happening in Nigeria in terms of the sports industry in Nigeria. Have you ever wondered why this is so? We even, Nigerians, it's not that we don't like sports, but most of us that even like sport have found a way to familiarize ourselves and endear ourselves to foreign sporting events. We hear our moderator speaking earlier on that she can't wait to watch the match that is going down today. She even went further and said that she is a Manchester United fan. So this shows that in Nigeria too, we don't lack sport lovers. We don't lack people in the population that are, passionate about sports and sporting events in Nigeria. But they are less concerned with sports or sporting activity in Nigeria. And this is the reason why we feel that there is an urgent need to open this discussion. Open this discussion in terms of fashioning out a means to commercialize sports industry in Nigeria. Fashion out ways by which we can grow the sports industry in Nigeria to also become a self-sustaining, commercially viable businesses in Nigeria, where people can, look forward to local sporting events with so much passion and enthusiasm, where people can start, buying the merchandise of sports clubs, talking about sport jerseys, talking about issues that has to do with sporting event and sporting activity in Nigeria. And in building this, we also need to understand the fact that sports law plays an important role in creating the kind of, growth and self-sustaining, thriving situation in the sports industry in Nigeria. The sports law plays an important role in that. And that is the reason why we want to discuss sports law in Nigeria today. We want to look at the legal framework that on which sports law in Nigeria stands on. So this takes us to a brief insight as to what sports law is. So on the question, what is sports law? Sports law is not in itself a body of law that applies specially or is created for sport. No, although there are some laws, rules, and regulations that are basically created for the game. We are talking about the sporting events, how they are played, among other things. But looking at the sports industry generally, it's an industry that taps into several principles of laws. And that is what makes the industry and holds the industry together. So if we are talking in respect of what sport law is, we can say that sport law is defined or can be described as a group of several different principles of laws that is applicable to sporting events and in the sporting industry. So what are we talking about? We are talking about body of laws that may come in form of legislations for non-lawyers that are with us. Legislation means a body of laws that are enacted by our National Assembly, either at the national level, the state level, or the local level. Then we have rules and regulations. Those are the ones that are made by the relevant bodies in charge of certain sporting events. And we have judicial decisions, which are decisions of a competent court in respect of any of the sports disputes or issues of law that has been placed before them for adjudication and determination. So amongst other rules that we have, and we are talking about body of laws made both locally and internationally, because as local laws apply to us, we also have international laws applies to us because we are members of international sporting organizations. Also, as a matter of fact, the team emerging as the winner of the local league here will have an opportunity to play in CAF Champions League and all that, just like UEFA Champions League. So those laws that apply in those organizations also apply to us. Then we are also talking when we talk about sports law, we're also talking about laws that are specially made for sports and sporting events. So there are also laws that are, specially designed to regulate how a sporting event is conducted. Talk about football, for example, we have rules of engagement in terms of football, FIFA regulation rules, basketball, all games, different sporting games, and rules of engagement that accompanies them and also governs them. So these are the basic bodies of law that constitute the legal framework of sports law. And they are so wide, they are so expansive that we may not be able to talk about all of them, but we will mention them one after the other. So when you talk about all the different bodies of laws that govern sports law, we are looking at bodies of law in terms of contract law, we are looking at criminal law, tort law, intellectual property law, agency law, immigration law. We have lots of them. Antitrust law, and we want to just quickly examine this body of laws one after the other briefly to know how they apply. So the first that we are proposing to discuss this morning is contract law. It is arguably the most popular sports law, the most popular area of sports law that is very essential and crucial to sports globally. Well, some will say it's dispute resolution, but I think I want to agree with contract as the most popular because every engagement that in the sports industry that requires another party, you'll be talking about contract law. So it touches on all areas of contract that you can imagine. Is it signing on a player? Is it hiring a coach? Is it in terms of getting endorsement deals? Name it. Even in terms of sports infrastructure development, anything that has to do with engagement with another party in sport-related matters will have to go through contract law. And also, I've talked about some employees to employment contract is also governed by it. So this is an important area of sports law. And, it is basically governed by the principles of contract law. Where when we talk about principles of contract law, those are the principles of fair acceptance and all that. But then one of the basic foundation of collaboration in sports industry is contract law. And, as stakeholders in the sports industry, we'll see that the role of sports is important. Contract law is important in this point. And as legal practitioners, or the legal service in this sector is also important. When you want to negotiate a contract, in terms of drafting the contract, in terms of reviewing the contract up to execution stage, even at what is called post-execution stage, you discover that the law still plays an important role. So that is one of the basic important framework of sports law in Nigeria. Then we also have criminal law. Criminal law, actually, there is no section of the society that is left out of criminal law. Criminal law, how does it play in the sports sector? We talk about crimes and criminal activities that happen in the sports law. So, in the sports sector, when you look at things like assault, we understand that there is some level of consent in impact sports, but then there are some contacts that are unreasonable that would amount to criminal offense. When I was doing some research, I remember the boxing match between Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield a long time ago. And in the course of that fight, Mike Tyson decided to almost bite off the ear of Evander Holyfield in that match. That is unreasonable and unacceptable. As a matter of fact, if Holyfield would want to press charges, it will be justified under the appropriate provisions of the criminal law. So we've seen some contacts that result into grievous bodily harm in sports play. And not only that, not only within the sports sector, the sports arena, we can talk about also personal crimes. We have a lot of athletes, very, very important, prominent athletes that have criminal allegations levied against them at one point in time. Talk about Mike Tyson, talk about Floyd Mayweather Jr., talk about O.J. Simpson. Even in Nigeria, we have a lot of athletes that have had either fraudulent or fraud-related activities, that have been associated with them, and there have been allegations. I'm not even talking only about sports personalities. I'm talking about even sport administration. The allegation of fraud-related activities in sports administration, even as high as the position of the head and president of FIFA. I'm talking about Sepp Blatter. He has been charged at one point or another of fraudulent activities. Former head of UEFA to Michel Platini. Even there was something I heard some time ago about the hosting rights of Qatar and the fraudulent, the fraud-related activities that accompanied it. So these are criminal aspects that govern sports law practice. And these are things that are very serious. You find out that in so many cases, there are so many promising sportsmen or sport administrators that those allegations have truncated their career, professional career, as well as their prospects in terms of reputation, among other things. So these are areas that we should pay attention to. And well, one would expect someone in that arena to, to want to explore the areas of law that can help them well manage situations as such, so that they don't get to lose their career or stain their reputation. Then another area of law that we will be looking at has to do with tort. Tort law basically has to do with personal injury or property damage arising from recklessness or negligence of another party. We've seen situations where a club match goes on, and at the end of the match, the losing party gets angry and in one way or another assaults another person, or even assaults a fan. All those things are legal basis for pressing charges, either for recklessness or negligence or on another party's case. Then we look at situations where maybe organizers of events, maybe they did not take proper or good care of the venue, and as a result of one situation or another, people get injured. They have legal basis to press charges and claim under this very law that we are talking about. So then, aside that, we have intellectual property law. This is very, very important because it's a major source of income for sports people, and it involves the protection of sports brand, talking about logos, trademarks, designs, proprietary rights, broadcasting rights, merchandising, amongst other things. So the logo of Manchester United now, no other persons aside Manchester United will be allowed to use it. Their merchandising in terms of selling of their wares, their jerseys, every other designs, well, for sports and manufacturing company like Nike, like Adidas, Umbro, and so on and so forth. This is a very important area for them, where they will have to protect their proprietary designs, proprietary rights to certain things which they have. And the consequence of breaching all these proprietary rights, intellectual property rights, would be intellectual property infringement, which is a serious lawsuit. And aside that, we have what is called regulations for sport administration. This comes in various ways in terms of administrative laws that governs the sports industry, which must be complied with. Talking about rules that has to do with equal opportunities on the playing field, banned substances in terms of anti-doping rules, practice schedules, and other regulations in terms of health, safety of athletes, and so other things. So in terms of even rules of engagement on the sporting ground or in course of playing sport, these are found under regulation for sports administration. Then aside that, we have other areas of laws that we may not be able to touch on, but I'll just mention talking about labor laws. Labor laws talks about even, we spoke about employment under contract, but labor laws go beyond employment, talking about the labor laws that must be complied with in terms of handling your employees, what they're entitled to, how they have to be treated, immigration laws, talking about athletes that migrate to foreign clubs to explore their talent there for better value. They have to migrate. They have to secure visa. They have to secure one another things. Medical law, constitutional law, we are familiar with issues in respect of discrimination, racial discrimination, discrimination based on sex. And there are other things that I will speak on under the emerging trends. Property laws, taxation laws, athletes or sports personalities don't want to be caught in all this, the web of these laws, antitrust laws, amongst other things. Those are the basic major framework of sports practice. Then more importantly, I actually singled out dispute resolution because it's also as important as as contract law, which I started with. This is the area of law that is very strong in sports law. And the reason why is that in every engagement, you will always note that there is room for dispute. there is room for different ideas or different opinions, which would inevitably lead to dispute. So what we have discovered is that there are the sports industry now has its own autonomy based on how wide and elaborate the industry is to develop its own dispute resolution mechanisms, as well as applicable rules, which will apply in case of violation of sports regulation or sport-related disputes, some of which I've mentioned earlier on. So what are these dispute resolution mechanisms? We have regular courts. So what do I mean by regular courts? These are the normal courts that we have, the magistrate courts, the high court, court of appeal, Supreme Court, and all that. These courts, they are endowed with the requisite jurisdiction to entertain sports disputes and resolve them. Then also, aside that, we have what is called alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. The alternative dispute resolution mechanisms has gained so wide recognition lately that a lot of parties, they like to go by this route. So the alternative dispute resolution in sport has even grown to the extent that there are international bodies that are specialized in sport-related disputes. And the supreme, we will say that the supreme seat of arbitration in terms of sports-related disputes globally is called the Court of Arbitration for Sport, called CAS. So this is under the administration of the council in charge, but then this is the apex arbitration court for sport-related matters. So then before I move from the areas of law, we need to talk, just to mention one or two things about emerging trends in the global sports scene. We have what is called esports now. With the development, of technology in every space, we also have found out also that the sport is not left behind. We have a lot of AI inspired technologies that are being deployed in the sports industry. We have what is called some sensors which are infused into footballs now to help the referee determine when the ball has gone offside or when there is a call to be made. Deployment of technology in sports for referees, sportsmen, to help them. There is what we call VAR technology in football now. That is virtual assistant referee technology. I can't, but something of that nature, which helps to determine when balls are offside or when there is a goal. Or this has helped improve the officiating of matches by referees. Then we also have transgender issues in sports. This has been an area that has really generated some controversy in the foreign scene now. So this has to do with people that have left their traditional gender and crossed to the other gender. To be specific, in terms of men crossing over to the female gender, and they are trying to advocate their right to participate in female sports. So some countries have approved this, and as a matter of fact, those men that have succeeded in practicing or participating in those sports have succeeded in taking all the trophies away from the traditional women that we know. So this has also been an issue which is seriously under debate. Then discrimination in terms of sex, color, sexual preference, and so many other things. So in conclusion, I would like to state that, the legal framework of the sports industry, has assisted to build a self-sustaining and viable business ventures in the global scene. And the law, as well as the legal practitioners, has been very instrumental to this development. However, this has not been the case locally in Nigeria. Then it has also been developed that the sports legal framework also exists in Nigerian industry, but a lot needs to still be done, not only by the legal practitioners, but also by the stakeholders in the industry to harness the legal framework to help support them in building a structure that will stand the test of time. Why we are of this opinion is that, we have a lot of elaborate rules, from the ones that has been mentioned to different specially tailored sports legislations, which can help build a structure that will promote sporting in the country. Then also, stakeholders are advised to continue to engage with their legal practitioners service within the industry to enable them get the best possible benefit for their respective endeavors within the industry. So the importance is to basically focus on how we can harness these legal frameworks. Talking about someone that wants to go into sporting activities, you're a talented footballer, you want to go into football. How does the legal framework even enhance? Someone is offering you a contract. Are you thinking of engaging the right professionals to help you out with looking at your contract, amongst other things? And it cuts across all areas of law that have been mentioned. So because of time constraint, I will have to stop at this point. It's a kind of discussion that that can engage you for a long time. But then I hope this presentation has been able to shed some few lights on the the legal framework of sports law in Nigeria. So I think at this point I will have to defer to the moderator. Thank you very much for listening. So I don't know, is it at this point that we address questions after the whole presentation?
Thank you so much, Mobolanle. This was wonderful. We're going to take all the questions at the end of the second session. I want to use this opportunity to thank you, because I really did learn a lot, and what particularly struck me was the fact that we need to harness, the legal framework for the sporting industry in Nigeria to be able to build structures that will stand the test of time. And you also said something about the sports industry being $1 billion industry. And I really align with you, because I also think that the legal framework in Nigeria for the sports ecosystem has really not been optimized, to its highest capacity. And I also learned about the Court of Arbitration. So like anybody that is involved with any sports dispute, because I am sure that there are so many people in Nigeria that are faced with, we have growing talents in Nigeria, and, people are getting to see the light. And I really appreciate your presentation, because I did learn a lot. The legal framework, the principles that are guiding the sporting ecosystem in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Mobolanle. Right now, we are going to move to the next session. Our next speaker is the Executive Director of GTI Asset Management and Trust Limited. Is also supervising the Nigerian Football Fund project. And Mr. Nelson Ine, he has worked over a span of 30 years in the financial and sports sector. He started his career in the capital market sector with various stockbroking firms. Furthermore, he also works with various organizations in the sports sector involved in marketing, training, events management, players development, and consultant on special projects. He is a bachelor's degree graduate of economics from the University of Ibadan, an MBA in banking and finance from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, a master's in sports administration from the International Academy of Sports Science and Technology, Lucerne, Switzerland, and is a professionally qualified associate member of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. Please join me welcome Mr. Nelson Ine. He would be discussing the business and the investment opportunities in the sports ecosystem in Nigeria. Thank you very much. Mr. Nelson, over to you, sir.
Hello.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning, the audience. Well, it's nice to be part of this program and to always have an interactive session with regards to sports business in Nigeria, which we are trying to promote through the Nigerian Football Fund. And I hope today we'll be able to learn one or two things from this lecture. So you permit me to share my screen. I hope you can see the screen.
Very well, sir. Please
okay,
go ahead.
fine. The topic is sports business potentials embedded in Nigeria. And well, let's look at the statement of some very prominent people globally and also in Nigeria about sports business. About sports generally, Kofi Annan, the past UN Secretary General, highlighted the power of sports as a means of bridging culture and ethnic divides. You agree with me today, sports is the most unifying activity we have in Nigeria today, that when you have sports, nobody talks about tribe, nobody talks about religion. We all see ourselves as one Nigeria, and that's one of the important roles sports play. Even from the religious circle, Pope John Paul II says, sports can serve as means of unifying people and also support essence of community. And that is why sports is being used as a tool all over the world for peace building. Our current minister, Mr. Sunday Dare, also stated that sports can stimulate economic activities and improve the cause of humanity, emphasizing the need to transit sports to business models that will deliver all-round value and ensure sustainable and incremental growth. So you can see the important roles of sports. And sport is also a powerful and social economic development tool. It's a major instrument of unity. Sports is more of a social activity. Based on all these statements from these prominent people, we can define sports in this context as an industry associated with creation of tangible and intangible assets from political, social, and economic activities of sports. So we are going to be focusing on sports as a business in this presentation. Let me also state that in sports, you have the social aspect, you have the business aspect. What many Nigerians are used to in the sports circle is the social aspects of sports, with less emphasis on the business aspects of sports. And that is why sports have not been taken very seriously in this country. If you look at the entertainment industry today, we have three key prominent entertainment activities. You have the music industry, the movie and the sports industry. You agree with me that the music and the movie industry have done far better than what the sports industry is doing. But we strongly believe that the sports industry, with proper management and putting the right systems and structures in place, would definitely deliver as much as the music industry and what the movie industry is delivering in Nigeria today. Let me also state here, most people may not be aware that the entertainment industry, the participants in the entertainment industry, the key participants are the highest earners in the world. If you look at our musicians today, what they earn, the likes of Wizkid, Davido, Don Jazzy, Burna Boy, and even P-Square. They are all billionaires. We all know their sources of revenue. Legitimate billionaires, they made so much money, they are global icons all over the world. If we come to the sports sector, also many people did not realize that the sports athletes are the highest salary earners in the world compared to all other professions. And that is why when you identify children with sports talent, instead of people to take them seriously, they just treat them as if they are not important professionals that should be encouraged to develop their skills and talent. Whereas if you bring the lawyers, you bring, with all due respect to lawyers, engineers, even professors and accountants and investment bankers, if you bring all of them together, you discover that in terms of salary earners, the sports athletes are the highest salary earners in the world. You go to the developed countries, whether in America, in Europe, what the athletes earn, what many of them earn per week is what some other professionals will earn per annum, and they will go to church and do Thanksgiving. But that's what they earn per week. So, and you see their value. In the English Premier League today, their average in terms of salary, there is about £30,000 per week, not per month, not per annum. Those are the very low salary earners in the Premier League. The high salary earners earn as much as 500,000 per week. Some earn as much as 300,000, 350,000. The highest paid person in the English Premier League today earn about £865,000 per week. Per week, I'm not saying per annum. So you can even imagine as a professional in other fields, when you earn £865,000 per annum, you are seen per annum, I'm not even talking per month now, you are seen as a big boy. And that is what the highest paid footballer in the EPL earns per week. So, and that is why those guys are so rich. So you discover that sports is big business. People are just looking at sports. Sports needs to be taken seriously, it's big business. Now let's look at the sports ecosystem now. In the sports ecosystem, these are the participants in the ecosystem. You have the government institutions, you have the athletes, infrastructures and technology, you have the products, producers and the suppliers, you have the sports agencies, the sports clubs, events, media, spectators, fans, sponsors, sports institutions and federations, government institutions. These are the active participants in the sports ecosystem. In sports, you have both the tangible and the intangible goods. You have the products, the tangible physical goods, and you have the services, the intangible non-physical assets and products and services of the sports industry. So people can do their business either trading in the physical goods in sports, or even and also in the intangible aspects of sports. Let's look at the major segmentations in sports. You can segment sports according to countries, regions, cities, climate, density. In fact, in terms of climate, I'm sure some people will wonder that, what do you mean by segmenting sports in terms of climate? Yes, you could segment sports in terms of climate. That is why you have what is called the winter sports, Winter Olympics, and you have the Summer Olympics. What many of us are used to today is the Summer Olympics. Not many Nigerians know that there's the Winter Olympics. Nigerians are not participating in the Winter Olympics because we don't have that kind of climate here, that condition here. But in other countries in Europe, America, and Asia, where they have these adverse weather conditions of cold, very cold weather conditions, winter, you have winter sports there. You can also segment sports according to the age, the gender, education, occupation, household size, and nationality. There's also the classification of sports. You find out that some sports, it's only the people in the upper class that normally participate in that sports, while you have some sports which it cuts across all classes participating. No. You also look at the behavioral status, the user status, expected benefit, loyalty status, the consumer attitude towards various sporting activities, goods, and services. Now let's all look at sports in the various classifications in terms of the athletes. You have the grassroots athletes. These are the upcoming athletes. You have the matured athletes. You have the elite athletes. These are the direct participants in sports. But when it comes to sports business, we are focusing more on the professional sports when it comes to sports business in terms of professional sports. But sports business generally cuts across because there's merchandising for goods and equipment used by everyone, both the amateur and the grassroots. So all the equipment, the apparels they use, they are also business items. So somebody can invest in either producing equipment, supplying equipment, or as a middleman selling sports equipment. The global sports market is always growing. It's been growing year in, year out. The only time there was a downturn in the growth is during the pandemic, during the COVID period, where businesses generally all over the world was down. So let us look at why do federations host major sports events? Why do they host these events? And why do countries want to host sports events? You discover that, for example, the World Cup and the Olympics now, every 4 years, you see countries lobbying to host that event. And sometimes people will be wondering, why will countries be lobbying to host a major event like the Olympics, major event like the World Cup, and other individual major sporting events like World Championship in Judo, World Championship in athletics, World Championship in wrestling, in all sports? Why would federations want to host all these, and why do countries always struggle to host this event? You realize that they all want to host it. Apart from the social impact, the big factor is the economic implications. All these events bring a lot of economic benefits to the host countries and also to the federations. If you look at the Olympics in 2017, 2020, 21 cycle generated about 7.6 billion. That was the last Olympics in Tokyo. Revenue generated by the Olympics was 7.6 billion. But if you look at the economic impact to Japan and Tokyo as a city, is far, far more than this 7.6 billion in terms of the economic multiplier effect. If you also look at the FIFA World Cup, the last FIFA World Cup now in Qatar, the projection was 7 billion, but eventually FIFA made about 7.5 billion in terms of revenue. You also look at the EPL, they generate a lot of money, the NBA, they generate a lot of money. And sometimes people wonder, how do they generate all these monies? Who is giving them this money? Because some people believe that it is the government, various governments of the world that are giving FIFA money or giving the Olympics money. No, they generate their own revenues. They don't depend on any government for revenue. They generate their own revenues through TV rights, sponsorship, ticket sales, sales of licensed products, and all other services they provide. Because of the high earning capacity of these events, that is why a lot of federations host these events and countries want to host, because of the economic multiplier effect to those economies when they are hosting events, both pre the event, during the event, and post-event. The economic impact is so enormous. Then the other thing is sports leagues. When we look at sports leagues, we are not looking at only football. Sports leagues involve football, basketball, American football, hockey, name it. All sports leagues you can imagine. Even you have the boxing leagues, you have the UFC leagues, you have the wrestling leagues, so you have various sports leagues. All sports have their own kind of league. Question is, are they commercially viable? Why? For example, the EPL today we watch, everybody is excited about watching Man City and Arsenal today. Why do you have the EPL? Is the EPL a commercially viable venture? And the answer is yes. The EPL is a very viable commercial venture. And if you see the growth of the EPL in terms of media rights, since when it was restructured in 1992 to the present day, that's a sports asset, a league that has grown in media rights from 192 billion to 10.5 billion today in revenue. So that is quite huge and it's quite enormous. The economic implication to even the football, the sports ecosystem in UK and globally is quite enormous. Today, a lot of people will be watching Man City versus Arsenal all over the world. But what people do not realize is that those matches they are watching, they are paying to watch those matches. And imagine the number of people watching the match all over the world. And imagine even if they are just paying $1 to be able to watch that match, your guess is as good as mine from China to America, all over Asia, all over Africa, all over America. Imagine the amount of money the EPL is generating. So the EPL is socially an entertainment league, but at the same time is highly commercially viable. If you also look at the Indian Premier League too, the Indian Premier League is based on cricket. When you hear the Indian Premier League, don't mistake it for football, it's cricket. That league is also very commercially viable. It has grown from a revenue of 101 million in 2008, that was about almost 15 years ago, to 6.2 billion today. And it has generated a lot of revenue. And we are also trying to replicate the same thing with the Nigerian Premier League. We are also of the opinion, and it's a general consensus, that the Nigerian Premier League is also a very viable league that is going to grow in value significantly. Look at the economic impact of the English Premier League on UK. Look at the amount of money it's paying to taxes, contribution to GDP, number of jobs it's creating direct and supported. And also, the EPL attracts an average of 686,000 tourists to England. Fans all over the world that want to identify with their team travel to England to watch their teams, to be to visit the stadium, buy merchandising, and also pay for a tourist tour of those facilities. And that is real money they are making. So you can see that although what we see is football, the whole thing is more than football. It's more than a game. It is more of a business. Then the big question is, all these businesses we are talking about, can we actually achieve that in Nigeria? Can it be achieved in Nigeria? The answer is a big yes. Because if you look at even the statement of some prominent people in Nigerians, the statistician of Nigerian, and you even look at the statement of the minister, you realize that this country has potential to generate lots and lots of revenue from sports if properly managed, and we are working towards achieving that objective. So we want to look at the 7 P's of the sports business potentials in Nigeria. These are the basic principles, business tools that we need to work with to be able to actualize the business potentials in Nigeria, convert all these potentials to actual revenues. We are looking at the 7 P's. We are looking at the people. Do we have the people in Nigeria? Yes, we do. We are looking at partners. We have potential partners. The answer is yes. Do we have the instrument and the system to promote the sports? The answer is yes. The price, the product, the place, and the processes. So if you look at the products, we have the products in Nigeria, but the only thing we need to do is activate these products to start generating revenue. We have the tangible products and the intangible products. So what we need to do is to improve on the various products in terms of quality to be attractive to consumers for effective demand. Likewise, prices. We must not look at sports as pure business. Most sporting events all over the world, people pay to watch those events. Either they are paying at the physical venue of the event, or they are paying through subscription, pay-per-view, TV rights to watch those events. And you also have the sponsorship price. So all these prices, we must do it in such a way that we were able to achieve the business objectives of the sports business. What about the place in terms of facilities? We need to upgrade our facilities in terms of training facilities, production facilities. We need to really improve on the infrastructures generally. And one thing is to produce all these things, we need promotions. We must put a lot of media and publicity behind these whole production processes. We need to use the press, the television and the radio, the internet, the social media to promote whatever we are doing in sports, just like it's being done elsewhere in other parts of the world to actually actualize the business objectives of the sports business. So the processes also, we have to look at the internal processes. We need to improve on them. The athletes, we need to improve on their training, their welfare. The officials, we need to improve on their capacity training. And all this, once all these are in place, definitely the sports business will start thriving in Nigeria. In terms of partners, there are various partners that is required for sports. And all these partners needs to be approached and actually marketed with values, proposition to attract them to be critical partners of the sports ecosystem. Based on the emphasis on sports business, that led to the idea of the Nigerian Football Fund. I quickly want to talk about the Nigerian Football Fund briefly. The Nigerian Football Fund is based on the concept of sports business, the fact that sports business have the potential to generate a lot of revenue. And that is why we have created this fund. This fund is to now enable investors to invest in this fund. And the funds of the TNFF will now be invested in viable sports properties and assets that can generate lots of revenue and now give some very, very good returns, very high returns to investors. And that's what the TNFF, the Nigerian Football Fund, is all about. But let me also state here that the Nigerian Football Fund is beyond football. It is not just a fund, it's a project. And that is the project we are now using to drive the Nigerian Premier Football League. So the Nigerian Football Fund, like we said, the value proposition is to ensure that we transform sports to profitable ventures and unlock more private sector participation, which we are currently doing. And if you look at the project dynamics of the fund, what happens is that all the money invested in funds, also some of it will be invested in financial instruments, some of them the football projects like the MPFL, which we have started with, and private equity that are commercially viable. So this fund has multiple sources of generating revenue. It is not limited. It's even beyond sports. And even if you look at the sports ecosystem, the sources to generate revenue from the sports ecosystem is quite enormous. For the fund to generate lots of money, we are talking about sports contracts, sports infrastructure development, talent hunt and management, and football clubs restructuring. All these are various ways of generating creating businesses to generate revenue in the sports ecosystem. So the objective of the TNFF is to ensure that the private sector is the one driving the sports business in Nigeria. And currently it's more of government intervention, but we believe in the future, the next 5 to 10 years, that this situation is going to change. And to just confirm our thoughts with the Nigerian Football Fund, as we speak today, there are partners now that are willing to invest in the Nigerian football ecosystem to build a very viable football economy. In some few months' time from now, we are going to be having the Super 12. The Super 12 tournament, the prize money for that tournament is 1 billion naira for the winner. It's quite unprecedented, but these are some of the visions and the expectations and aspirations of the Nigerian Football Fund, which we are beginning to see happening now. The news is already in the public domain. You can check out the news. There's a Super 12 tournament for the Nigerian Premier League clubs coming up some few months from now. The prize money for the winner of that tournament is 1 billion naira. And I'm sure many of such tournaments are going to come up, and it's good for the project we are doing because it's going to create a lot of traction for the project and encourage other critical partners to partner with the league. So these are the features of the Nigerian Football Fund, the 5 billion naira fund, units, 100,000, the fund managers, the various parties to the fund have all been highlighted. And like I mentioned earlier, the fund, the investment vehicle for the funds that we are going to get from investors is for football projects, private equity, and also financial instruments. So that at any given point in time, the funds from investors are always invested in one instrument or the other to ensure that constantly the fund is generating some good returns for the investors. So on that note, I want to conclude by saying that the sports business potentials in Nigeria to create significant qualitative and quantitative benefits to all stakeholders. And I believe the potentials is there for us. There are various businesses which we can engage in, and those businesses can generate lots and lots of revenue for everyone in this country. And let me emphasize again, the sports environment Thank you very much. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I'm done with the presentation.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Nelson Ine, the Executive Director of GTI Asset Management and Trust Limited. Thank you so very much, sir. For me, I'm sure all our listeners have learned a whole lot about the business opportunities and the revenues that can be achieved in the sports ecosystem in Nigeria. You know, the question that struck me was, can it be achieved in Nigeria? We look at we all watch Champions League, the English Premier League, we watch their matches. I also want a situation whereby people can also watch the Nigerian Premier League in England or in Scotland, you know. And another thing that struck me at the 7 Ps, people, places, partner, processes, and our products. You know, these things are the how, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to build a sports ecosystem that will stand the test of time. All right, thank you so much. So we are going to move on to the question and the answer session now. Please, everyone, kindly drop your questions in the chat box. Some questions are already coming in. All right, okay, so I'm going to take this first question now. This is from Emmanuel. Emmanuel says, I think this is for Mubolanle Otegbe. Emmanuel says that, how can a young talent be assisted to get the best of his contract deal with his football club? How can a young talent be assisted to get the best of his contract deal with his football club? Mubolale, please, can you help us with that question?
All right, Bisola, thank you very much for that question. So when you read out the question, what crossed my mind is the first legal framework which was developed, which we talked about, which is contract. So for a young talent, you know, is young, is excited of the opportunity to get out there and show his talent and most likely earn something, you know, value for what he brings to the football. So, but then, you know, as such a young person, that person may not be so skilled in the art of negotiation when it comes to contract negotiation with the team or the football club that is interested in such a person. Person might also want to consider 1 or 2 things in terms of maybe if it's a foreign country, you know, immigration, the conditions of living, getting a visa and permits and all the necessary things that would set him up and, you know, running as a professional football player in the destination by he's going to. So such a person can get assistance from people that would be referred to as agents, people that are legal professionals too. They can help in perusing the contract, you know, making sure that all the terms and conditions stated there are to his favor, you know, looking for ways to ensure that they can extract the best of terms for such a person. And they want to review his documents, know what he needs for him to successfully travel, get to destination, settle down, necessary permits he needs, amongst other things. But you know, that kind of person will be able to, first of all, hit it up and running with good terms and conditions of a contract well negotiated for him. So, and I think that is where a law firm can come in, such as Imperial Law, can review the contracts, can advise on how best to explore the opportunity that has been presented to him within the bounds of the applicable laws. I think with that, it will be able to get the best from the contractual proposition that has been presented to such a staff. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, so there's a question here for you, Mr. Nelson. The first question is, what are the various value-added schemes that TNFF has in place? The various value-added schemes that TNFF has in place.
Yeah, thank you very much. The various value-added schemes that we have in place, what we have done, first of all, is to try to work with the one we think is the most value-added property in the whole country, even in Africa, which is the Nigerian Premier Football League. So that is the first sports asset we've taken on. And we are still working because that asset is quite huge with a lot of potentials to give the investors lots of good returns on their investment and also to generate lots of revenue. So we've just taken off with that now, and hopefully we also still intend to take on some other assets soon based on our various timing schedule that we have to get all these sports assets on board. But like I said, the one we are working on now has multiple streams of income and will create multiple opportunities with lots of value to all stakeholders, investors alike, the fans, everybody. It's going to bring lots of benefits to everyone. And what we're also trying to do to create a lot of values to ensure that we get all our football matches on television. Get them on television. So hopefully from next season, we expect to have at least 8 of our live matches on television. In addition to that, people are going to have various exciting content from the Nigerian Premier Football League. And we're also working on the solution to ensure that everyone can view the matches live on their mobile phone and mobile devices, apart from televisions at home. So we are going to have a Nigerian Premier Football League on the go, on the phone and mobile devices of everyone across this country and even global space.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You have been able to list out the value-added schemes that the TNFF brings. There's also another question for you, sir, Mr. Nelson, from Mr. Adeolu Ogunshola. Mr. Adeolu says, how soon can we expect to get returns from the investments in the fund? And I think I should also add that how can we subscribe to this fund? Because everybody that is listening on this call, they want to know, we have talked about the TNFF, how can I subscribe, and how soon can I get my returns on investment?
Okay, interested investors can always subscribe through the TNFF.gti.com.ng website. All they need to do is just Google that website and you see the forms, the subscription form there. They fill the subscription form online and they can also pay online. The account is there. And once that is done, they will get the feedback from the fund managers acknowledging their investment and also sending them evidence of that investment in terms of slip to acknowledge the investment in the fund.
Mr. Nelson, we can't hear you, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Okay, now we can hear you now, sir.
Okay, fine. I said that interested investors can subscribe through the TNFF website, tnff.gti.com.ng. They can go Google that website, fill the subscription form there, submit online, and can also pay online. And once that is done, they will get feedback from our fund managers who acknowledge their investment and also send them a certificate of investment as evidence of their investment. So, or they can come to our office, number 4 Tinubu Street, to make further inquiries for investment. or they can reach us through the telephone numbers on the website.
All right. Then the other part of the question is, how soon can investors, how soon can they get their return on investment?
Yes, we are looking at by next year, investors should be able to get returns on their investment because, you know, we are working on this project we started this year, and the project is taking shape, and there's been a lot of attention and traction to the TNFF, especially even through the Nigerian football project that we are currently managing. So hopefully by next year, investors will start getting dividends. So we always encourage them to invest now, because as time goes by, the value of the investment starts to grow. So what they can invest now at a lower price, in some few months' time, the price would have gone. In fact, we even see the price going very high this year. So it's better for them to quickly invest now. The price has even moved from 1 naira to 1 naira to kobo. So we advise and encourage them to invest now, but hopefully by next year, many of them start getting returns as dividends on their investment. And apart from dividends, even when the price have appreciated, they can also sell and make some capital gains on their investment.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, sir. Then another question is here for you. Mr. Diolu says that the present football clubs in Nigeria, are they keyed into this project?
Yes, they've all keyed into the project because you can see the evidence in the league currently now. You know, initially people didn't take it seriously, but over time now they can see the impact on the league. And that is why, like I mentioned in my presentation, it has attracted partners from Nigeria and outside Nigeria. As we speak today, there's going to be a Super 12 preseason tournament in this league. And the winner of that tournament is going to get a prize money of 1 billion naira. I don't think there's any tournament in this country today that a winner takes 1 billion naira as prize money. But because of what the TNFF has done with the Nigerian Football League, it has started to come. So if all the teams participating in the league alone are getting 20 million naira, and the winner of that tournament, preseason tournament, is getting 1 billion, the runners-up is getting 200 million, I think that's a very good development for the league.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I also agree with you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. This question is for you, Mobolale Otegbe. So I understand that there are so many football academies, you know, that have been coming into Nigeria from, you know, from outside the country, and then we have people that are not so vast. Like, what are my options? How can I get into this contract and not be cheated? How can I be protected? What do I do? So can you talk to us on that? Just for anybody that is on this call that, you know, probably is approached by a football academy, you know, and they need to know how their rights can be protected, you know, when they travel outside the country, how would the contracts be terminated, you know, this kind of things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bisola. I think this is almost like the earlier question that we asked. Then I will speak to it from this angle. Like the presentation earlier said, you know, when there is any engagement that involves more than one person within the sports ecosystem, there will be need for contractual terms to be reached and agreed on. At first, it will be negotiations, which will be reduced to writing and then signed and all that. So for someone like that, that would probably have received some proposals or some interest from sporting academies that are interested probably in signing such a person up or training, you know, whatever the arrangement is, the contractual terms are really what binds parties. You know, talking about the academy on one hand and such a person on the other. So what such a person needs to do would be to engage the service of an experienced professional that, you know, in terms of negotiating the terms of such association, reviewing what they bring to the table, matching it with, you know, what he has to offer. You see, there is something that is called, you know, the position of bargaining, or you call it bargaining power. So, so at some point, you know, some of these guys are scared and they're thinking this is the only opportunity I have. If I don't jump on whatever it is they're proposing to me, I may just lose it and not get another opportunity. But you find out that the opportunities are ever present. It's just like when you miss a bus, you don't break the sweat because you know another bus is coming. But then it's very important that you get into the right bus so that at the end of the day, you won't jump out of the bus before you get to destination. So you want to ensure that you sign a contract that won't leave you grumbling or leave you dissatisfied or disgruntled somewhere along the line. So an experienced professional can assist with putting together all the necessary terms that will favor such a young player or young athlete or sportsman. And talking about movement, you know, to another climb. Yes, most times for people in Nigeria, for sportsmen that are gifted or talented, local competition may not be, you know, may not be their wish. They might want to move into foreign jurisdictions where those sports or sporting event thrive. You know, a lot will have to be done. A lot will have to be put in place rather. So that would require the services of an experienced professional. So when I keep saying experienced professional because it cuts across different angles. You're talking about the legal practitioners aspect of things. And you're talking about, you know, agents in terms of prospecting, you know, which area would be good for you, which area do you tend to thrive more, which area are more receptive to people of your color, you know, and all the possible challenges that such a person might, you know, might encounter moving forward. Will it be easier for you to settle down, acquire a property, live? What are the tax implications of your residence here, you know, and all those details they would want, I mean, they should be worked out. And such a thing would help such a person settle down, get the best of his or her time, you know, playing the sport that he loves. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. The last question I have here, which is also for you, Mobolanle, is who has the higher authority between the court, the CAS, or the local courts, that is the Court of Arbitration for Sports Disputes, or the local courts?
All right, thank you for that question. I think that speaks to the dispute resolution aspect of sports law. So like I said much earlier on, you know, the sports industry is so wide, so complicated that it has gained the autonomy to set its own ground rules for dispute resolution, even to the extent of establishing a specially dedicated court for such disputes resolution. So as a matter of fact, the regular courts have the jurisdiction to listen to sport matters, but then their jurisdiction goes as far as local matters. So any sport-related issues that has to do within the locality, talking about maybe a local club signs a local player and there is a dispute as regards their terms of engagement, or maybe a local sports manufacturing company supplies sporting materials and there, you know, there are disputes as a result of all those things. So local courts, talking about the regular courts, have the jurisdiction to handle them. So, but then when you talk about CAS is you know, the jurisdiction of CAS is international. It goes beyond the local territory. Talking about each country, no, it is international, it's all encompassing. I would say it's global, such that it will serve as an appellate court for sports-related matters. And it will also exercise original jurisdiction over international sports-related disputes. If that, for example, if NFA has issues with CAF I'm talking about Nigerian Football Association, Nigerian Football Federation, sorry, NFA. Okay, I mean NFL. Apologies for that mistake. Has issues with CAF, that's the Confederation of African Football. The court of arbitration of sport for sport will be, an appropriate seat of jurisdiction to exercise their power to hear and determine such dispute. So in terms of comparing jurisdiction, the local court plays their local jurisdiction very well, but then when it goes beyond local disputes, then the Court of Arbitration for Sports exercise jurisdiction. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, everyone. Okay, someone just dropped the last question. What is the present regulatory framework for sports sector in Nigeria? Mbolali, I think that's for you.
Okay, thank you once again for that question. Well, just like we have shared with us earlier on, the present legal framework of sports in industry courts across all the areas of laws that we have discussed. And more importantly, there are different regulatory bodies. If you look at that, the presentation talks about different established, well, I'll call them statutory regulatory bodies, because it's the government that makes all those enabling laws to establish regulatory bodies over all the areas of sports in Nigeria. Maybe in terms of football, we have the Nigerian Football Federation. In terms of basketball, they have their own regulatory body. Weightlifting, tennis, swimming, judo, taekwondo, and so on and so forth. So, those set of governing bodies also come up with their own regulatory rules from time to time. So, which governs the game in terms of its administration and how it's played. But generally, the regulatory framework for sports as a sector in Nigeria is wide and thank you.
All right, thank you very, very much. And that concludes our session on sport law and business in Nigeria and the potential opportunities that are embedded therein. I think at the end of this session, I personally have been able to, my confidence in the sports ecosystem in Nigeria is built up, because I know that we also can achieve it. The Nigerian Premier Football League can also be seen in other parts of the world, and people can also start getting to be so interested, just like the way we are all interested to watch this evening's match, and the fact that we are the athletes in Nigeria, we have laws and the right framework that protect their rights, and to ensure that any disputes that arise, they'll be well adjudicated upon. And the investment opportunities, we have the Nigerian Football Fund here, and because we see that the sports industry is a billion-dollar industry that it has not been optimized to its full capacity. And there are so many revenues. Mr. Nelson was rolling out a lot of revenues, and I was like, oh wow. So we have these things can also happen in Nigeria. So so I would like to thank everyone. I would like to thank our brilliant speakers this morning. I would like to thank the participants, all the attendees. Thank you so very much. And if you have any further questions, kindly send us a mail at imperiallawoffice.com or info@imperiallawoffice. We'll be happy to take any of your inquiries, questions, clarifications, and so forth. Thank you so very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Bisola.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well done.
Thank you.
Bisola, for the second speaker, how do we get in touch with the second speaker if we want to?
All right. You can send a mail at info@imperiallawoffice.com, or you can also send a mail to imperial@imperiallawoffice.com. We'll be so happy to take in any of your inquiries, your questions, clarifications, and any other thing. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for bringing that.
Thank you.
Yes. And Mr. Nelson, also, I think you rolled out, I think you can also please tell us your email so that for interested investors on this call that would also want to subscribe in the TNFF, how can we reach you?
Okay, fine. Let me first of all give my telephone numbers. You can reach me on telephone 080-340-22020. 080-340-22020. That's my telephone number. Or you can reach me via email n.ine@gti.com.ng. n.ine@gti.com.ng. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
Hello?
All
Hello,
right.
Bisola.
Yes.
I made a suggestion, maybe just overlooked it. I think the say charity begins at home. It's a very popular parlor. I will expect every member of the group also to invest in this PNFF because of the huge benefit that will be coming in the near future. You know, Mr. Ine just stated very clear that in the just give us 2 years, that this time next year, you know, ending of next year, we'll begin to get a benefit. You know, I want a situation where every member of this group, GTI, should be able to, you know, invest in this and also benefit. We are not building this thing only for few people outside or across the country. We can also invest into this.
All right, thank you so very much. Everyone should invest because of the huge benefits. Mr. Nelson was rolling out some revenues and I'm like, oh yes, we can do it. We can do this in Nigeria and we have great hopes and confidence. Mobolale, please, would you also give us your email?
Okay, thank you, Bisola. If you would like to further reach out for inquiries or clarifications in respect of today's presentation or anything that has to do with sports law, any other areas of law that I have 1 or 2 things to clarify, you can reach out to me on o.otegbeye. Tegbeye is spelled O-T-E-G-B-E-Y-E. o.otegbeye@imperiallawoffice.com. So I'll be more than glad to receive your mail, respond accordingly.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for this session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.